Well, they've been held for 4.5 years, and we've been talking to the pirates who are holding them for a good 2.5 years, although we've known they were there from the very beginning. But trying to persuade these pirates that there was going to be no big payout. And you know how these guys are, they expect a big payout, you tell them there isn't a big payout, and it takes a lot of convincing. So what turned the circle for us was by involving clan leaders, religious leaders, trying to persuade them on humanitarian grounds to accept whatever little compensation was on offer, and let these guys go. I can't really answer that. We're not in the business of paying ransoms, but what I can say is that we look for opportunities to try and satisfy the creditors who filled up, who paid for these food and water and guards and so on. So we're not in the business of paying ransoms. I don't really want to answer that because we have to do this again. We still have 30 hostages inside Somalia that I need to get out, and we need to use the same methodology to do it again. So I don't want to go into the details of how it was done. Well, initially they were held on the ship after the ship was first pirated, and there were a number of other people held on the ship. Michael Scott Moore, who was a journalist, was also held on the same ship while they were negotiating for him as well. But they were eventually moved inland and moved around a lot. They feared the security forces, so they moved people around quite a lot. They're basically in the bush or in huts. And as you heard from some of them, they lived by cooking rats and snakes and whatever they could get their hands on to provide some food, because the pirates certainly didn't provide much food. Half a dozen involved in the attack on the ship. But then, when the ship was brought ashore, and when the crew were ashore, more for guarding. You tend to have a pirate gang is made up of a kingpin, the Mr. Big, and then a number of investors who invest in the enterprise, hoping that they're going to get a big reward, and they then employ a pirate commander and a number of guards. So it's quite a big enterprise, and the local community gets involved because they are providing food, and sometimes they're in the same village. We certainly know the number. We have another 10 fishermen from an Iranian fishing boat called the Siraj, and they've been there for a year and a half now, and they're in central Somalia. There are also 5 Kenyan hostages made up who were all kidnapped. They're not victims of pirates. They were kidnapped, but they've been bartered or given to the pirate gangs to look after and to make money out of. No, that's why we, essentially a charity, are doing it, because a lot of governments can't, and governments have policies of not dealing with terrorists, not dealing with kidnappers, not paying ransoms. So we try and step in where they can't go, but that's not to say that governments aren't sympathetic and help where they can. The governments of this crew have been very good, very helpful. They've provided papers and travel documents and so on when I've needed them. And it's the same in the Kenyan cases. The Kenyan government is extremely interested in getting the Kenyan citizens back, but is not in the business of paying ransom. Yeah, I do. I think it's still a big threat. you're right, there haven't been any pirate attacks on commercial vessels since 2012, but the pirates have still been attacking the fishing vessels, which is why this vessel, the Siraj, got caught. But piracy is suppressed because of the presence of the navies who are out there patrolling in the Indian Ocean. It's also suppressed because of something, sounds a bit boring, but it's called best management practice, which means that in the high risk area, which is a designated area of the Indian Ocean, they call on entry, they call on exit, and when they transit the area, they transit at high speed and sailing a long way off the coast. Now, if you change any of those factors, then the potential for the pirates to have another go. Well, I missed one thing. Probably the most important thing is carrying an armed guards on the ship. So if you stop doing any one of those things, the pirates may think they've got a better chance and have another go. The navies are certainly looking at the naval presence in the area because of the requirement. Ships are not. There aren't that many of them, warships, and there is a growing migration problem and refugees, which the navies are being called to assist in. So that may draw them away. EU NAVFOR's operation is coming to an end soon, so that's a factor, and also commercial factors. The shipping industry may decide that. Or certainly often tell their captains to slow down, stop burning up so much fuel, cut in across the corner and go straight into Mombasa. All of those factors. If we stop, if we stop doing what has prevented piracy, then they'll come back. They're just doing other things for the time being. You need to be able to suppress it at sea if it comes about again. You need this seagoing capability that we've just been discussing. But equally, you need to have livelihoods along the coast, in the coastal area. Young guys with nothing to do and families to feed. If there's no possibility of earning or of jobs and earning a decent wage, are going to take to criminal activity if the opportunity is there. So we've got to counter that. We've got to look at the local coastal communities in Somalia, look at regrowing those communities, helping them start businesses. So, my view, it's a combination. You need to encourage people as well as being able to police. That's right to the heart of the matter, and it's something that affects me directly and the work we do directly. No, they're not. IUU fishing is a serious problem in this region. I mean, it's a serious problem all over the world, but particularly here, where Somalia doesn't have a fishing authority, doesn't have an ability to issue licenses, doesn't have an ability to patrol the seas and enforce their licenses. So these international fishing fleets take advantage of that. Not only is it stealing Somalia's fish, but it's stealing the revenue that could be being used to regenerate and restart the country. So it's definitely something that needs to be addressed. The problem is that the mandates of these navies are for counter-piracy, not for illegal fishing. Our view is that we'd quite like the navies to have a broader mandate and look at all of the criminal activities that are going on in the Indian Ocean from the sea. So piracy, illegal fishing, illegal migration, smuggling of arms and ammunition, smuggling of drugs, sanctioned activity like charcoal exportation, illegal charcoal exportation, and illegal sugar importation. All of those are illegal activities which an aggressive naval force or a mandate that allowed them to report all of those activities would be very beneficial, but it's not the case at the moment. Oh, one of the other problems of illegal fishing is the slave labour that's used on these fishing vessels. This Naham 3 case, for example, the crew were all supposed to be, their families were supposed to receive their wages. Well, families were never paid. Just imagine a situation where not only are you not paid any wages, but when you get into trouble, your owner just abandons you. So we need to change the laws and the regulations and the international agreements that cover that cover piracy in relation to fishing, so that fishermen are not used as slave, or people are not used as slave labor on fishing vessels. And then when things go wrong, they're not abandoned like a piece of trash. Oh, absolutely not. No, I mean, Somcan was one of the sort of, they were just like pirates in uniform, absolutely not. They were aimed at the same thing. A lot of them were just cover for the pirates. But now we have a Coast Guard in Somaliland. There's the Puntland Maritime Police Force, and we have maritime police units in Berber and Bosaso and in Mogadishu now that UNODC are supporting, and that's designed to at least get experience on the sea and know how to do law enforcement at sea. But it still doesn't answer the problem of getting out into the deep water, into the 200-mile EEZ.